So Terence Crawford has a physique that has the fans talking because his shredded physique has set social media ablaze, with fans buzzing about his power, discipline, and the looming mega fight against Canelo Alvarez. Every photo fuels speculation that Crawford is gearing up for the biggest challenge of his career. Could this new look be the edge he needs to shock the world in this historic showdown? You know what's funny? I've noticed online that people are questioning Terence Crawford's resume. People are questioning Terence Crawford's resume, and it's just mind-boggling. I mean, let's go through it. So when he fought Errol Spence, before he fought Errol Spence, this was a 50-50 fight. But when he dominated and respectively destroyed Errol Spence was damaged goods. So why did people not create this narrative beforehand? Why was it a 50-50 fight before, but now Spence was damaged goods afterwards? Like, make it make sense. And then we have, like, you know, the fight against Julius Indongo, which made him the undisputed super lightweight champion. Then we had the Gamboa fight, which showcased his elite boxing IQ. And then we had the Victor Postol fight, which was a masterful decision to unify the titles at 140. And then, of course, we had the Sean Porter fight, and Sean Porter was a fighter that was a really good champion, fought at the elite level. He brought everything to the table. And again, Terence just went to that matrix level. Again, in hindsight, Sean Porter wasn't a credible opponent, according to some people. That is patently ludicrous. Why were people not saying this beforehand? Sean Porter was, like I said, he was a good champion, and he brought intensity and passion and aggression. And like I said, Terence Crawford just took it to another level. And then we had the fight against Jeff Horn, which was when I think he moved up in weight. And again, that was a one-sided beatdown. He totally dominated the fight against Jeff Horn, respectively. So when you look at the CV of Terence Bud Crawford, you see credible opponents that have been beaten in meticulous fashion. How could you say that this is not a good CV? And if it isn't a good CV, then please show me what is a good CV. I mean, just make it make sense. It really doesn't make any sense at all. So one of the strong points of Terence Crawford is that he has such notable victories. However, there's been a picture circulating, and there's been a lot of speculation. There's been a lot of speculation with regards to his weight gain. And the positive speculation has ironically come from Sean Porter. And what he says is that he feels that Crawford's preparation has been really good. He feels that it's been really good. And he is saying that he's gaining weight the correct way, with expert guidance, facing bigger sparring partners. And obviously, why is he getting bigger sparring partners? They are there to simulate the strength and the power of Canelo. So there you have the praise from Sean Porter. But then you have some negative feedback where certain fans are criticizing him for not adding enough mass, suggesting that he looks too lean for Canelo. And Abel Sanchez is, again, really good trainer. He's currently training Filip Hrgović. He's revitalized Filip Hrgovic's career, adding different elements to his game. And he also trained Triple G when Triple G completely took over the division, had monstrous power, and was very feared. So Abel Sanchez has had some criticism, stating that he feels that quickly bulking up instead of gradually building muscle, this could backfire. This is interesting because a lot of casual people would assume if you're lean, you're in good shape. In one sense, that's true, but you might not be in boxing shape. But here we have a reverse, where people are seeing Crawford being lean and assuming that he's not in fighting shape. So I don't know what to make of that. Does that mean that, boxing critics and the boxing media or general fans are more insightful? Or is this harsh criticism of Crawford? Clearly, if you're carrying more weight and you're looking lean, that could indicate something very positive, because if you're putting on too much weight and you're not looking lean, then that could indicate that maybe you're not in the shape that's necessary to be able to compete. Putting on weight can hinder speed. It can typically maximize power and strength, but hinder speed and accuracy. So if he's still able to maintain his leanness, maybe that's a representation that the accuracy and speed are still there. So if his speed was like an 8 out of 10, him moving up means now it's a 7.5 as opposed to being like down to a 6. So it's still a strength. But it does create some interesting speculation. Also, I tried to get some information what's happening in Crawford's camp. It seems to be that there's a lot of secrecy, but from what I hear, there's two main elements to his camp. So the first element is that he's bringing in Shakur Stevenson, and that's for the boxing IQ work, which is very important because Canelo has a high boxing IQ. So you need to bring in someone that can replicate the boxing IQ of Canelo. So that's Shakur Stevenson's job. However, you have not only a boxing IQ challenge, you have a strength and power challenge. And he's bringing in larger sparring partners to try and simulate the power and strength that Canelo brings. Ideally, you need a combination of all those things in your sparring partner. So you need them to bring strength, power, and ring IQ. Because we don't have any names, any actual names of who these larger opponents are, it's hard to ascertain or to build an accurate estimation of whether these sparring partners would have the relevant IQ to be able to imitate Canelo. This is where the trainers are so essential, because I guess BOMAC's role isn't just about creating an effective training system. It's also about nurturing the sparring to duplicate, not only to duplicate Canelo's normal routine, but also to try and duplicate new things that he might try. So that's a really important role. So it's not just about having a good training system. It's also about getting sparring partners to duplicate Canelo's boxing IQ. So typically you would want them to, the basic combination, the right uppercut to the head, the left hook to the body. You need to be bringing in guys that can throw that punch effectively. And to make those, the other combination that Canelo likes to throw is the jab to the body and then the right hook to the head, but he throws it with blistering speed. So you need to get fighters that can duplicate that, so that, Terence Crawford becomes accustomed to the habits of Canelo. And I guess from the outside looking in, and all of us, apart from the ones in the camp, we're all outsiders looking in. We don't know what's going to happen when Crawford tastes Canelo's power. We don't know if he has the ability to absorb that power. Can he absorb that power for 12 rounds? Will Canelo be able to find the target in the 12 rounds? There we have a reference point, the Floyd Mayweather fight, where he struggled to find the target. And basically, Floyd Mayweather used his boxing intelligence and his experience to nullify Canelo's offense. But obviously, this is a more intelligent Canelo. Then we have the Bivol reference, who outpointed Canelo, but Bivol, being a light heavyweight, naturally had the weight to be able to take Canelo's punches. So the Bivol fight is the reference point, but we don't know if Bud Crawford is built to be able to absorb punches from Canelo. But it's all interesting, and it's just such a massive event. And I love the fact that this event is predicated by their fighting styles as opposed to their personalities. Let's be really honest. Canelo and Terence Crawford have tremendous boxing resumes, and this potentially is going to be a great fight.